Look,
Closing comments.
it's nice. All the things that have been said are very true and very nice in theory. When it comes to implementation, look, there are so many points that have been covered, but to keep it succinct and on the subject itself, whatever is happening on the international stage, जो कश्मीर के बाहर हो रहा है, what has been done, what is being done. I keep on using this phrase, and I hope that people understand why I say it. Some things you keep to yourself, and some things you explain. And it's the same thing with the individual activists, organizational activists, and even for Pakistan. Not everything can be said of what's being done. So a lot of the times we can critique, and absolutely rightly so, we can critique the policies of Pakistan, but at the same time, we don't know what the policies of Pakistan are. We don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. So necessarily the truth. And as for giving education and supporting the people of Kashmir living in the diaspora actually have. I mean, we're not billionaires here. Every single one of us has to struggle the same way that anybody else. I mean, the roads of London and the roads of New York are not paved with gold. People work 18 hours, 19-hour days, and they get paid pittance, and then we're taxed 40%. So zindagi aasan nahi hai. Jinko lagta hai ki ye log bahar hai aur maze le rahe hain, that is not true. That is absolutely not true. We feel the pain that the Kashmiris feel, but sometimes it can feel worse because we cannot contribute. We are not there on the ground, and occasionally there is even that guilt complex. I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but you have the guilt that यानी कि मेरे लोग मेरे रिश्तेदारों के साथ क्या हो रहा है और I'm sitting here मजे ले रहा हूँ, even though सच में मजे नहीं ले रहे. So people are doing the work. People say कि किसी वो यास्मीन मानी ने कहा she's doing some good work in the Supreme Court, but what impact does anybody actually think that we can have sitting in London, in New York, in Istanbul and other places? What impact can we actually have on the Indian judiciary? We can't. It can only be done at a state level. That is where Pakistan comes into fold. That is where the UK comes into fold. That is where other countries come into fold. And that is where our work is relevant. और अगर कोई लिख रहा है, कुछ काम कर रहा है, किसी से मिल रहा है, हम Facebook, Twitter पे नहीं चढ़ाते हैं. Because the moment we do that, I'm telling you this with my experience. These aren't just random words I'm saying. It's with experience I'm telling you. I used to put up everything on Facebook. Not only did my Facebook get shut down, but immediately anywhere that I would go and any friends that I had built, any goodwill that I had gained was gone out of the window because I had given India an insight into the work that I was doing. ठीक है मैं अपने कश्मीरी लोगों के साथ शेयर कर रहा था, but at the same time I was also keeping it very, very public. And because of that publicity, the Indian government and the Indian agencies living wherever they were sabotaged a lot of the work. So now we have to do things in a different tact. This isn't 2018 anymore. This isn't 2008 anymore. Things have changed. So we also have to adapt to our strategies. And of course, I think people also need to understand, the ones that don't that have a soft spot for Kashmir and genuineness towards the cause, but aren't necessarily connected to the ground. They also need to recognize that some of the ideas that you give, that we've been discussing these for 20, 30 years, and there are हमारे बुजुर्ग भी थे जो हमसे भी दानिश्वर, the people that were much more smarter than us, वो लोग कामयाब नहीं थे इन बातों में. कोई कहता है कि ये करेंगे हिंदुस्तान को, कोई कहता है कि वो करेंगे बर्तानिया को, अमेरिका को, यूएन में अंदर ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. मतलब we need to be a little bit more practical on what is achievable. ठीक है, but there is also one other point that I want to make. A lot of the times we take people that are in the diaspora, we take offense to what the people inside Kashmir are saying, and I think that's a mistake that we do. We shouldn't take it personally because they are living in trauma. They've seen things, terrible, terrible things while we've been away. And so they lash out at anybody that they can just to vent their frustrations. And it is okay for us to be punching bags. We need to accept being punching bags because to some extent, even they might be right. Jitna kaam hum kar rahe hain is waqt, is it really enough? Could we have maybe done a bit more, maybe 10% more? Where were we lacking? If we are giving 2 hours a day, could we have given 2.5, maybe 3? So we need to be set tangible targets, achievable targets. ठीक है, we can say that we need to be able to go to the UN. ठीक है, जो ये बात कर रहे हैं ना, explain to me how and I'll do it. It isn't enough to give ideas. You need to give the mechanisms. If you don't understand the mechanisms that are in place, then giving those ideas doesn't help. It's infuriating. It's frustrating because we know that these are absolutely great ideas, but we don't have the resources, the manpower, or even the access to do such things. So हाँ कोई कहेगा कि यूनाइटेड नेशंस के अंदर ह्यूमन राइट्स सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल के अंदर काम लोग कर रहे हैं, बस हम बात नहीं करते. We don't say it. मतलब I can't speak on behalf of anybody, and I don't dare to do that. Everybody can do it to themselves. And I'm not saying this as a matter of bragging or anything like that. कम से कम हफ्ते में 2 बार I write a letter directly to okay, I won't say who, because again I don't want to be expose all the things that are being done. But we write letters, we meet people, we have Zoom conferences, we get responses. बस हम Facebook और Twitter पे नहीं चढ़ाते, मगर काम हो रहा है. For example, the most recent thing, Modi is coming to the UK. Most people won't know that there is a massive campaign being launched to try and sabotage his presence. And we know that his presence he's still going to be here. But that's what I meant at the beginning. If Asif Sab, you remember when I was saying at the beginning that not all ideas may be achievable, but the process of trying to implement the idea, we may achieve something even better. So that's something that people need to remember, that the work is being done. Not everything can be shared, but you have to have some faith in the diaspora that we are trying to do what we can with the limited resources, the limited time, and the limited manpower we have. We are not the ambassadors and working with the embassies, and we're not appointed by any government. We're doing this from our own goodwill. ये तो हमारे लिए एक I don't want to say sadaqah, but it is. I mean, if anybody wants to disagree with me, but we're doing this out of the goodness of our heart, out of our own cost, personal cost, financial cost, mental health cost, every kind of family cost. A lot of people don't know what cost, what kind of sacrifices that people are making. We know the obvious sacrifices people are making on the ground. We can never compare to that. As Farhan said, do not belittle those people that are also working when you don't know what is actually happening. So we need to have an element of trust. And when it comes to working together, I'll end with this, because I know that there are other people that need to speak as well. I'll end with this. I'm going to say something very controversial, and nobody's going to like this, but I don't believe in unity. It's not possible. It's absolutely not possible. And I'll tell you why. Because in the freedom camp, you have people that want Ilhaq-e Pakistan. You want people that want independence. You want people that want God knows what. You want people that are there are people that are secular, there are people that are Islamist. You have, even within people that want Azadi from India, there are 5 or 6 different groups within themselves. Trying to create unity among all of them is a futile exercise. ये वही काम है हमारे बुजुर्ग that were much more intelligent, much more competent than us, that they were unable to succeed on. What I would suggest is you create unity among those people that have the same ideals as you, people that you are able to work with. It isn't necessary that I have to be able to work with ASIF. It isn't. ASIF may have the same ideologies as me, but there are 1,000 reasons why me and ASIF may not be able to work together. ASIF is based in a different country. I am based in a different country. I understand the mechanisms here better than he understands the mechanisms here. He knows his mechanisms better than I do. So everybody has their own specific skill set. They have their own specific role. They all belong in a specific region. And what works in London absolutely does not work in Canada, for example. And correct me if I'm wrong. The policies that are formed in the UK cannot be translated in America. The entire political structure is different. We have a different parliament. We have a different democratic system in the UK compared to America. We have senators and congressmen there. We have lords and MPs here. It is different. So therefore, creating that unity has to be within certain bubbles. And sometimes those bubbles overlap. And that is a great thing, because those are the overlaps are where people can work together. But trying to force unity when knowing full well in the back of your mind that it is going to be disruptive, and sometimes even it's going to cause a negative impact. Let us not force this unity concept. Let us work how we are able to work, and where the overlaps exist, they exist. Now, I have a lot more to say about the unity, but I won't, because, I know who the different people that work are. Magar in Kashmir, as they say, don't air your dirty laundry in public. And we should keep our dirty laundry to ourselves. But we should also explain to the people in Kashmir that we know what we're doing to some extent. We need your guidance. We need your information. We need your stories. We need the facts from the ground so that we can empower your voices. And on a last note, I also say this: the Pakistani state is doing what they can, absolutely, to whatever capacity they are able to. But at the same time, the one thing that I have, ek hi shikayat hai mere unse, that they do not empower the indigenous Kashmiris enough. They do empower some, but not to the extent that they should. If anybody remembers, and these are all, I'm always going to give exactly the same examples. Ahad Tamimi, the Palestinian girl, she became a figurehead of the Palestinian movement. Hang Tamam, just for the sake, the North Korean girl. So the state of Pakistan can easily create centers of Kashmiri activists and empower them to create a better narrative. Because we know full well, particularly the people that are living in the diaspora, the moment a Pakistani speaks up on the behalf of Kashmir, the Indian lobby immediately say, "Dekh lo, ye propaganda hai, state sponsored, ye wo falana timkana." So it is much easier to destroy the Indian narrative and their mechanisms when you have indigenous Kashmiris that represent the cause themselves. We do not want to turn into another Iraq. We do not want to turn into another Afghanistan, into another Libya, where you have non-indigenous people representing the causes that do not have understanding of the ground realities and how the mechanisms work inside Kashmir and of the occupier. Thank you.
Could I say something, please?
Khalid bhai, I'll give you time. Let's, as Muzammil bhai said, let's work in those hours.